He said, and it's freaky. He said that he had to have someone killed. And his dad just kind of stepped back and what? You what? He says, I don't want to, he says, that's it. I don't want to go into it. I just wanted you to know. So that didn't really go over too big because we wanted him to leave.
He stood in their doorway, long hair unkempt, and told his father and stepmother he had to have someone killed. Those words, spoken by Brian Hooker decades ago, are now being investigated as a possible murder for hire. I'm Junaid, and this is The Crime and Consequences. I have just finished a conversation with Donna Hooker, Brian's stepmother, and what she told me alters the entire picture of the man at the center of Lynette Hooker's disappearance. You already know the outline of this case. Lynette Hooker vanished from a catamaran in the Bahamas in March of 2025. Her husband, Brian Hooker, told authorities she fell off a dinghy and that he tried desperately to save her. He claimed he threw a life ring, that he searched, that he did everything right, but that story collapsed almost immediately. Our sources confirm that the evidence now shows Lynette was dead on board the sailboat Soulmate before Brian ever made that call. There was no bouncing off the dinghy. There was no frantic rescue attempt. All of it, from beginning to end, was a made-up lie. And Donna Hooker knew it the second she heard it. If he truly loved her, she told me, who would have gone in the water after her? He had other plans.
When he was talking about the dinghy and Lynette, okay. Yeah, I knew that was not true the very first thing I heard it. I knew it. I mean, people probably thought, "Oh, well, poor Lynette. What? Why didn't he go in and get her?" And da 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 da. Well, he didn't because it never happened. And if he truly loved her and that really happened, he probably would have gone in the water and got her, and everything would be okay. But he had other plans.
Donna has been around boats. She understood that you don't simply slip out of a dinghy in calm, shallow water and disappear forever. She felt the story was wrong, and now the physical evidence has proven her instincts were correct. But Donna had another reason to doubt Brian. A reason that stretches back almost 40 years to a confession he made that has haunted her ever since. A confession that now has investigators from Hawaii looking into whether Brian Hooker didn't just lie about his wife's death, but arranged someone else's killing long before Lynette ever set foot on that sailboat. Donna was married to George Hooker, Brian's father, for more than 4 decades. George passed away at the end of 2025 after a long, painful decline.
He didn't contact me when his dad died. I mean, how did he feel? I was like, how do you feel about your dad? Why didn't you come see him? He was sick. I took care of him for 3 years. He got very, very ill and it was horrible. And you never, I would say you never showed up. You never offered me any help. You never did anything. And I just have no respect for him at all. And I really do want him to pay for what he's done.
Donna cared for him through 3 strokes, kidney failure, and all the daily indignities of serious illness. She did it largely alone. Brian hadn't come by since 2022.
Brian, we saw in the second stroke. George had 3 strokes. The second one was kind of, he looked kind of, I don't know, droopy, and he couldn't see very, very well and stuff. And Jennifer called me and wanted to come and see her dad. And I said, fine, come up here. He'd love to see you, and because he didn't get to see him hardly at all. So here she comes with Brian.
How long ago was that?
2022.
4 years. And yep. Our audience might not know this, Donna, but you have had a hell of a year in so many ways. You lost George just at the
Yeah.
end of 2025, and
Yeah.
you're still in
Yeah.
mourning over the loss of your husband of how many years? 35, 36,
Uh, 41.
41. Oh my God. I am so sorry.
I know it's heartbreaking because I'm still, I still have anxieties and things like that, and I cry a lot, but I can't help it. I talk to him every day. I talk to him about Brian, and I talk to him about all this.
Maybe the silver lining here, if there's any of it at all, is that George died before all of this with his son.
Right? It would be horrible if oh, it probably would kill him. It probably would because he loved his boys.
He didn't show up to help. He didn't call when his father was dying. Ask yourself what kind of man stays away while his stepmother nurses his own father year after year. The audience following this case will have strong feelings about it, and Donna feels them deeply. She is still in mourning, and on top of that grief, she is now processing the probability that her stepson killed his wife, and that he may have killed before. Back in the 1980s, Brian and his brother Bruce were homeless on the beaches of Hawaii, living off the grid by choice.
Yeah, uh, Brian didn't like people. He didn't like being around a lot of people, and he didn't like society. Nobody could tell Brian what to do because that just would not, he just wouldn't go for that. On the other hand, Bruce was different. He wasn't, unsocialized, so to speak, or whatever. But yeah, Brian just went the opposite way. He just grew his hair really long, and when he came to our house, that time that he got back from Hawaii, the only reason I know what happened in Hawaii is because he came to our house uh, unbeknownst of us. We didn't even know he was coming. We didn't know where he was at the time. And so he knocked at the door, and there he was standing there. And I didn't even recognize him. I was like, what happened to him? And his father was not a happy camper. He 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 goes, "Where have you been?" And we were on the beach, and we were just, living there. And he goes, "You were living on the beach bumming around." Yeah, yeah, that's what he liked. He liked it.
Donna told me Brian hated society, hated being told what to do. He fell in with a rough crowd. Then one day, without warning, he showed up at George and Donna's door. He looked different, almost unrecognizable. George was furious, asking where he'd been. Brian talked about living on the beach, about having a good time, and then he mentioned bad people, men who harassed them.
Um, but he got involved with some bad people. I understand from someone that lives in Hawaii um, that locals don't like people on their beaches sleeping and just hanging out. They don't like it. But they do have bad people that will go on the beach, harass these people, like Brian and Bruce were probably harassed by these people. Plus, they kind of they were involved with some people too. Bruce and Brian. They met these guys, and that how that goes. So,
Any idea what kind of people they met and what they were involved with when they were on the beach?
well, the only thing that he said was some rough people, rough, bad people, guys. We have them everywhere, right? And like, I don't know if I'd call them a gang, but I wouldn't know how to say who they were.
Seemed like they
But he
were
was
like
involved.
maybe a criminal element, any drug dealing that
Yeah,
you know of or anything like that?
I would say because I know that I don't know, but I think that Brian and Bruce did some stuff. I don't know what kind. I don't know anything like that, but I do know that they were probably involved in some of that stuff too, and that's not good. And probably drinking.
And then he said something that made the blood run cold in both George's and Donna's veins.
Well, we were all standing in the living room after George could catch his breath after seeing what he was looking at. And sorry to say that, but it was not good. So he was talking to his dad about what they were doing, and they were hanging out on the beach, and he said, basically having a good time, and just and sleeping on the beach. And my husband was questioning him about all of that, sleeping on the beach and meeting people and stuff like that. And he said, that's not good. That's not good. I mean, you look different. He loves being away from a lot of people and off the grid and things like that. So he was talking to his dad, and I was standing there and, just listening. And he told his dad that the people that harassed them, and I guess they tried to probably steal things from them and everything on the beach.
He said he had to have someone killed. Let me repeat that. Brian Hooker told his father and his stepmother, standing in their living room, that he'd had problems with dangerous people in Hawaii and that he had to have someone killed. He did not say, "I killed someone." He said he had to have someone killed. That distinction is enormous. It implies he arranged it. It implies a transaction, a murder carried out at his request. Donna remembers every detail. Brian was in a hurry. He never sat down. He dropped that bombshell and then refused to explain further. He just said, "I don't want to go into it. I just wanted you to know." Then he was gone. Off with his long hair and his anti-establishment views, leaving his parents to stare at each other in disbelief. George and Donna never reported it. They were afraid.
Yeah, it was, we sat down and looked at each other and said, "What did he just say? Do you really think, do we really think, or talking to my husband, do you really think he did something like that?" And he said, "I don't know. I'm afraid to really go into it. I wanted him to go into it, but I'm afraid that, something would have to be done. Like if he was telling me certain things about what happened. I mean, I know George would have had to do something. We can't just let him talk like that and say something terrible. It's not right. It scared me."
They wondered if Brian was telling the truth, and if he was, what they might be compelled to do. Donna told me, "It scared me. It would probably kill George if he knew what was happening now." That fear, bottled up for decades, has now become a piece of an active investigation. Because when a man who lies about his wife's death also admits to having someone killed years earlier, law enforcement pays attention. Investigators are looking into whether a murder for hire occurred in Hawaii in the 1980s, and whether Brian Hooker was the one who ordered it. But here's what nobody's talking about. Brian's brother Bruce was with him on that beach. Did Bruce know about the killing? Did he hear the confession later? Donna says Bruce never spoke of it, that he avoided the subject entirely. She believes Bruce knew and stayed silent.
And Bruce mentioned anything about this extraordinary statement that Brian had made about having to have someone killed in Hawaii?
No.
He never broached the subject?
No, never.
Do you think he knew and just avoided it, or do you think he truly just didn't have any idea?
I'm sure he knew and he avoided it, because Bruce really wasn't that type. They were opposite, okay? They were personality-wise and everything. Bruce was
If you find that detail unsettling, you're not alone. It raises a question that won't let go. If Brian got away with arranging a murder once, what did that teach him about what he could do to Lynette? The sequence of revelations in this case keeps escalating. First, the dinghy story that defied all logic. Then, the forensic evidence that Lynette's body was on Soulmate, and that she was already dead. Now, a past confession of lethal violence. And layered over all of it is a documented history of abuse. Brian choked Lynette until she passed out. He slammed her against something so hard she had bruises on her back.
It was pretty sneaky. And if he had choked her before and choked her till she passed out and threw her up against something to put bruises on her back, what kind of person would do that? You know what I mean? They've been married for 25 years.
He told her he wished he'd finished the job. Lynette had bought a plane ticket to go see her mother, a trip she never got to make.
I thought, if he did this, how could he do this? What possessed him to do something like this to her? But then I was thinking of the other things that he threatened her with, throwing her overboard, stuff like that, her leaving him and coming back, and then probably if she told him she was going to leave again because she had the plane ticket to go back to see her mom, I think it was, and she told him that she was leaving and packing up and going, he probably threatened her, I would think. I mean, this is, my opinion, but I can just see it all happening. For some reason, it's that he threatened her and probably said, which I think Carly did say that he wished he had finished the job.
Think about that plane ticket for a moment. An ordinary object, a symbol of her plan to leave, and it sat unused because she was already gone. Donna Hooker is not a woman given to dramatics. She is a widow who spent 3 years caring for a very sick man, and when she says she believes Brian killed Lynette, that carries weight. She told me she has no respect for him anymore, she said. I really do want him to pay for what he's done. She described him as non-caring, without emotion. Someone who doesn't believe in God, and who doesn't like people.
And he's non-caring. He has no emotion. He does not believe in God. He's an atheist. And he doesn't like people. And if he could, he'd live somewhere, which I don't know, somewhere in a cabin, somewhere, maybe off-grid, I don't know. He wouldn't be around people.
She told me she doesn't ever want to see him again. That she doesn't want him at her house.
Well, for one thing, I really don't ever want to talk to him or see him ever again. And I don't want him to come to my house, which I don't think he would. But he's been to Oregon, and it wouldn't take him too long to get to my house. So, and I think he knows what kind of person I am, too. I don't put up with anything like that. I don't put up with any baloney, you know what I mean? And he knows it. And when he was here, seeing his dad with Jennifer, I asked him I said, Brian, where's Lynette? You're always with Lynette. Where is she? We're separated. We're not together. I gave her my other sailboat. I bought a sailboat, but I gave her the other sailboat. She decided she didn't want to live like this anymore.
When was that?
And she shared a message she would give Brian if she could. Why, Brian? Why did you do this? You've hurt so many people, and we need justice for Lynette.
I'd like to just say, why? Brian, why? Why did you do this? You've hurt so many people, and we need justice for her. And Darlene and Carly need closure, big time.
If you, like many of our viewers, felt a wrongness in the original Denki story, long before the evidence came out, you were ahead of the official timeline. Your instincts matched what investigators eventually proved. That's something I hear constantly from this audience. The ability to spot when a story doesn't add up. And what doesn't add up here is a husband who claims to love his wife, but whose actions suggest otherwise, a man who had a habit of choking her and threatening her life, a man who once stood in a doorway and casually announced he'd had someone killed, I think about Lynette, the swimmer, the athlete who loved the water.
Lynette would never have fallen off that dinghy. She was not, God, she was an athlete. She was a,
He was a swimmer.
yeah, and
Shallow.
3 feet of water.
Yep. Yeah. The whole thing
Uh,
was preposterous. The whole thing made no sense. I knew it right away as a boater, not even knowing Lynette. I knew that that story
yeah,
was garbage.
it wasn't
Now,
right.
Donna, now it has been proven. My sources told me that it is definitive. The evidence shows that Lynette was back on board Soulmate and was dead on that sailboat.
She was not someone who would simply topple out of a dinghy. She was preparing to go home, to see her mother. She had packed. The plane ticket sat waiting. Instead, she ended up dead on a sailboat, and the husband who was supposed to protect her spun a story so flimsy it fell apart within hours. Donna told me she can barely look at Brian now, that his fake crying makes her sick. He's faking everything, she said. And I think about what this has done to her. Losing George, then learning that the stepson she once thought was a polite kid. Maybe a killer twice over. Justice is coming. I have said that before, and I will keep saying it. Tick-tock, Brian. Tick-tock. If you know anything about Brian Hooker, and what happened in Hawaii in the 1980s, or if you ever heard him claim he had to have someone killed, reach out to us at Tips Crimean Consequences. Come. Your information could be the missing piece that closes a decades-old wound. And in our next episode, I am going to walk through the specific forensic evidence found aboard Soulmate that shattered Brian's story completely. Details that convinced the investigators they have their man. Subscribe so you don't miss it. Because the truth carries consequences, and those consequences are only beginning.